The most important part of your playback rig is something we never discuss. In fact, I've never made a video about this ever before, but it's so important that if this goes down, if this doesn't work, the entire show may not happen. In this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what that piece of gear is, share some steps that I'm taking to make sure I'm prepared before my next gig, and some practical steps that you can put into place to ensure that your next live gig goes flawlessly. Okay, so what is that piece of gear? No, it's not audio interface. It's not your MIDI interface. It's not your MIDI controller. It's this. It's your cable. And in fact, particularly, I want to talk about USB cables just for a moment, okay? So I just recently got back from 2 days in Nashville doing 2 live tapings for TV. And one was an event on Sunday, one was an event on Monday. And I went into these and I said, I'm gonna be the most prepared I've ever been for any event ever. In fact, I joke with my wife that I live in a constant state of disappointment because I have really high expectations for myself and I tend to always fall short of those. So I'm constantly walking around going, could have done this better, I could have done that better. This was one of those things I said, I'm going to do this better than I've ever done. So I started preparing for this event, 2 weeks beforehand. It was a kind of short turnaround from figuring out about it to doing it. And one of the things I did is I started getting all my gear ready and I started thinking, what am I going to take? What's the plan here? But towards the end, the day before I left, I started thinking, well, actually, there's a really important part of this that I haven't considered, and that's the USB cable. And so one of the things I did, which I've actually never done before, I'm sad to admit, is I took my Behringer cable tester. I have the CT200. I plugged each of my USB cables into this cable tester, and I was really shocked and surprised to see that almost all of my cables that I plugged in failed. And you may be going, well, what does the cable tester test? What does it actually mean that it failed? Well, I don't know the exact science. I'm not an engineer, but essentially it says that the cable tester checks for continuity, intermittent or shorted connections, the presence of phantom power, and grounded shields. Essentially, something in that cable was not allowing signal to pass properly. And it meant that that cable is not the best possible cable that it could be. So heading into this event, I went with enough cables to connect my audio interfaces, plus backups that every single one of them was tested with a cable tester, and I knew that they worked. And this is super, super essential because you think about this, yes, I've got a Play Audio 12 that I'm taking with me for redundancy. In fact, I took a second Play Audio 12 in case that Play Audio 12 went down, and I thought I'm gonna be the most prepared I can be. But one of the most important parts of that entire equation is this cable. If there's something wrong with this cable, then the data flowing from my computer to my audio interface isn't going to work. And I don't care what type of audio interface you're using. If your cable isn't working, then things could go bad. So here's a couple steps I'm taking that I think you could apply. Very simple, easy steps before your next live gig to ensure that everything works and everything goes properly. So number one, I've already got this, but I would highly encourage you to purchase a cable tester. This is the one I have. I'll put the link in the description of this video. The Behringer CT200. Again, you're going, well, Will, if you know what you're doing, you're going, well, that doesn't test the flex capacity of it, whatever, then buy something different, but buy a cable tester. Have something that is a standard that you can hold all your cables to and know, I'm gonna go out on the road with these cables and these are ones that are gonna work. Number two, have backups. Please, 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 please have backups. At least that's something that I've always done that I got right. Was I may not have tested my cables to know that they were working properly, or at least according to the standards of the CT200, but I at least went into a venue and said, okay, I need 2 cables to connect my Play Audio 12, so I'm gonna take 4 cables. That's the math of backup, is if you need 1, take 2. If you need 2, take 4. If you need 4, take 8. You got it. That's simple math that we can do here. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my standard for cables high. So one of the companies that I've heard from a lot of folks that are playback techs that buy cables from is Startech. I believe they're sold on Amazon. I know Sweetwater sells them, or at least they used to sell them. And they have a really cool name. It sounds like Star Trek or Star Wars or something, so they get my vote. But going forward, I'm gonna buy high quality cables, and once I get the cable, I'm gonna test it with the cable tester to ensure that it passes the test, that it's verified. In fact, maybe it's even worth, I mean, this is something I literally just thought of in the moment, maybe it's even worth like a little green dot or something to know this is verified. Maybe you'll put like a QA, QC, like tested on this date, ensured to work, whatever you gotta do to know that you're heading into your next gig, knowing everything works. So for me, buy a cable tester. Number 2, have backups. Number 3, buy high quality cables only. Okay, so that's what I've got for today. I've got a bonus tip if you're with it, if you're down to stick around. If not, you can go ahead and hop off the video. If so, before you go, hit subscribe, enable the bell icon, post a new tutorial every single day. I don't want you to miss it. Okay, you guys are pros. You're the true members of the community. Let me share this final thing, and this is something I've learned, unfortunately, the hard way. So let's say I've got a piece of gear here, okay? So I want to connect this audio interface to my computer. So it's got a Type-C connection here. So I grab a USB Type-C connector. I plug this into the connector, plug it into my computer, catch it before it crashes and burns and breaks. And I realize it doesn't work. Now, why does this not work? Now, the dead giveaway when you first look at this is this little lightning bolt here, this Thunderbolt here. Hey, I just realized why it's called Thunderbolt, and it has that signal. There you go. Sometimes you learn things. This is actually, even though it's a Type-C connection, so if you look at the cable, that's a Type-C connector. USB-C cables and Thunderbolt cables, I believe both Thunderbolt 3 and Thunderbolt 4, use the same connector type, but they are different types of cables. So for this cable to work, again, I need to look for that Thunderbolt, not to be confused with a lightning bolt, but that Thunderbolt, and go, okay, this is a cable that will work. I see it's got the sign, I'll plug this in and everything works. Now, this isn't just audio interfaces. Again, I have, in fact, as I was getting ready for this video, I saw the device over there, the Blackmagic Ultra Studio recorder, which is like an input capture card. And I remember when I first got that, I couldn't ever get it to work. And I realized it's because all I had was USB-C cables, not Thunderbolt cables. So going forward, another commitment I'm going to make. What's cool about these Thunderbolt cables is these actually are, I don't know if we're going to call them cross-platform. They are backwards compatible with USB-C. Maybe that's a better way to say it. So yes, this cable and this cable are the same connector type, USB-C Type-C connectors. But this will work with any gear that works with this, but this will not work with any gear that works with this. So going forward for me, I am only going to buy Thunderbolt 3 or 4 cables. In fact, at this point, since Thunderbolt 4 is the standard, I'm only going to buy Thunderbolt 4 cables. So if you think about it, think about a live show. If something goes wrong in the moment and I have cables sitting next to me and suddenly I need to replace a cable, one, hopefully I've got a backup. But if I do have a backup and I just grab it to go replace it, suddenly something goes wrong, I need to grab that cable to replace it. I grab the cable, plug in. In the heat of the moment, I'm not going to know that this isn't a Thunderbolt cable. But if all of my cables are Thunderbolt, I know they're going to work no matter what gear I have. So there's your bonus tip for today. This is something I never thought I'd do a video about USB cables, but I've also talked about hard drives and file management. So these are the boring things. These are the things that are not sexy that make a pro a pro. So if you want to be a playback tech, we got to obsess about cables, right? Being a playback tech is all about service. It's all about serving the needs of the band. And it's all about doing things that will never go noticed, right? Our goal is to go unnoticed. If people don't know that we're there, we did our jobs. If they notice us, if they know our names, then we probably haven't done our jobs well. So that's your bonus tip for today. Thanks for watching. If you stuck around, again, you're a true fan, so you're probably already subscribed. But if not, then you're gonna love this community. So hit the subscribe button, enable the bell icon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye.